Hello friends, and welcome back to the Mothership. Today I'm going to show you how to make our very own bacon sausage. Now before we get to a grinding, we need to get our meat into a size that's going to go through our machine. My machine's number 8, has about a 2-inch chute, which means that I need to cut our meat into a size that will go right through there. Here is some pork. Got about 1.5 pounds of it here. And honestly, I can probably just cut these just like so, and then that will go right through. So I'm just gonna get them into nice long strippy strips. And then what I wanna do is just get them onto a tray and put them in my freezer. If you guys have never grinded anything before, it's really a lot easier to do it when the meat is almost frozen, if not just on that edge of frozen. It makes it so stuff doesn't smear, and it actually will go through the machine much better. So I'm gonna put these into my freezer, and we'll focus on some of the other meat that we need. For this bacon sausage, we also need some beef. In my case, I have a whole bunch of brisket that I have ground up already, so I'm not going to have to do anything extra with these. Just going to keep them nice and cool because it'll help everything stick together if it's the same temperature. So I'm going to put that aside. But what we also need is some pork belly. I have about 1 pound of it here. And we don't want to grind it up. What we want to do is get it into very small little diced cubes. It's going to go into our sausage kind of about this size, really. I want it to go in just about like that, maybe a little smaller. Now we don't want it to be too small because we want it to have a nice bite to it, but we don't want it to be too big since we're using such small casings. So dice these up into very small little cubes, and those will go in after we grind our other pork and mix together the beef. Hey guys, guess who didn't hit the record button when I started to put together my dry ingredients? But I'll walk you through where we are. As always, I like to use a scale. These are not that expensive, and absolutely you should get one if you want to make, really anything with small amounts. And since we are doing sausages, guys, we're gonna do everything by weight. I have about 2.3 pounds, and honestly, the imperial system is kind of a pain if you're going to do percentages, so we're gonna switch over to the metric. I know, no freedom units today. In our case, I got about 1,950 grams. And going through the list of ingredients, I have a percentage for each one, and then I multiply that by the amount of grams, and that's how many grams of the particular ingredient I need. What I've already got set aside, I'm a big fan of about 1.75% of salt in my sausages. So I have that in there. Then I also have 1/4% of pink salt number 1. These are going to be cured, so we want to make sure we get some pink salt in there. Then I also have 0.25% of black pepper, 0.1% of white sugar, 0.5% garlic, 0.1% paprika, and that catches you guys up with where we are. I'm also going to do 0.1% of coriander. And then lastly, I want 0.05% ginger, which is not a lot. So that's only going to be about 1 gram in this case. And there we have it. Those are all the seasonings that we need for this particular sausage. Now last thing for the sausage, we are going to have a wet ingredient. So a lot of times people just use water. I like to use beer, but in this case, since we're going with a lot of pork, it's kind of a breakfasty thing, I'm gonna go with cider. Get a little bit of the apple flavor in there. So for cider, I want about 10%, which would be about 195 grams. Now we might not need all this, we'll see. It's entirely possible that this is just gonna be way too much liquid, but we'll put it in as we need when we're mixing everything together to make sure it stays, at that right consistency. Now, with our ingredients, I'm gonna set them aside and I'm gonna go check on our meat to see if it's ready to start grinding. Our slabs of meat were in the freezer for about 1.5 hours, 2 hours, and they're just at that point where they're about to start freezing. So now I'm gonna give them a nice grind. I'm grinding on my smallest plate. I'm gonna do it twice. That's the same way I did the brisket, so it should be the same consistency. So let's give it a quick grind. Now, as you can see, at the very end, I toss a couple ice cubes down. That gets most of the remaining meat out. So, time to get this all mixed together and get our seasonings in. I'll start with our ground pork, toss in my brisket, and I think before I get all the seasonings together, I'm just gonna get these roughly mixed. Now, that's a good place to start. Let's get all of our seasoning in. I know off the bat I'm gonna need a little bit of liquid, so I'm gonna make a hole in the center, add some liquid in. Now at this point it's definitely overly sticky, so I'm gonna add a little bit more, and I'm gonna keep doing that until I get to the kind of the tackiness that I'm looking for. I want it to fall off my glove and not stick. It's really usually my go-to. But as you might have noticed, we haven't put our cubed up pork belly in yet. I just don't want to overwork the pork belly cubes so that, they just become smears of pork. But I think this is a good point to add it all in. Honestly, they kind of look like little marshmallows. Now at this point, actually, this looks pretty good. It's not sticking too much, it's falling off. I think this is where I want it. And now what I'm gonna do is get it into my stuffer. I'm gonna let it sit in the fridge inside of the stuffer for a little bit before I actually start to case them. Maybe about an hour. I want everything to just kind of relax, let all the protein start to kind of recombine, and then I'll make it easier for us to actually case them. So I'm gonna get into my stuffer, put it in the fridge, and we'll come back when it's time to actually case these suckers. Okay, it's time to get these suckers cased up. I'm going with 19mm collagen casing, which is a great size for breakfast stuff or for snack sticks. And yes, I know exactly what this looks like, guys. Get your mind out of the gutter. But our goal here is to create like 12-inch long strips, and then we're gonna tie each side off with butcher's twine, which is gonna make this a pretty time-consuming process because you gotta tie off all of them. If you have one of those little crimpers, that's super helpful, and I think something I should probably invest in if I'm gonna keep making as much sausage as I do. But this also is really useful to have 2 people doing it, rather than just one, which is kind of a pain. So, something like that is probably about perfect. I'm gonna take off the end, just the tip. And then I'm gonna take some twine, like I said, and just tie her off. It's kind of one of the reasons why I hate collagen, to be completely honest. I like natural casings so much more, because natural casings, you can kind of just twist it together, and it'll dry out, and it'll be perfect. But obviously with collagen, it's not gonna dry out like that, so you do have to tie them off, which is why those crimpers are actually very useful. So, there we go. About 1 foot long, maybe a little longer, but this is a perfect size for breakfast sausage. You can see our pieces of pork belly in there. It's gonna be very baconized. And what I'm gonna do is just go through all of this, guys. It's gonna be very time consuming, but throw some tunes on, crack a beer, have a good time. I'm gonna get through all these and I'll show what we're gonna do next. And boom. Here is all of our delicious looking breakfast sausage. This bacon sausage is gonna be incredible. I can see these little chunks of pork belly everywhere. Super excited. Now, I'm gonna let them sit for about 2 hours, let all that curing do its thing before we hot smoke them. I'm gonna probably hot smoke them for about 2 hours also. But right now, just gonna let them sit for about 2 hours. Then we'll toss them onto the smoker at about 180 and get some smoke on here. About an hour and 45 minutes into our smoke, you can see our little sticks looking beautiful. These sausages are gonna be perfect. They've definitely got some nice color going on. I'm gonna do the full 2 hours, and then we're just gonna bring up temp in some water, cook them off, and be done. But let them finish their thing, and then I'll show you what we're gonna do next. Alrighty dudes, we smoked these bacon sausages for about 2 hours, and now I'm going to actually just cook them off in my sous vide. You could obviously do this on your stovetop, just keep your temperature kind of low. We don't want to boil them. I'm gonna cook these at about 165 for a couple hours. Ooh, that's warm. And just really let everything just cook in there, be completely done. And at that point, we can freeze them off. You can cook them off on your stove, heat them up, do whatever you want. But we're just going to cook these, like I said, about 165 for a couple hours. Bring them up to a temperature of somewhere around 150, 155, which they might honestly already be at from the smoker. But I'm just gonna let them keep sitting at that temperature for a while, let everything just cook together and get some good flavors going. Sous vide's gonna be great for this, so I'm just gonna toss the my little lid on, and then we're gonna give them an ice bath, and then they're ready to just be cooked up again for whenever you want to eat them. Okay, our sausages have been cooking for about 70 minutes at this point, and they are probably done. So I'm going to pull my machine, I'm gonna dump all the water out, and we're gonna replace it with ice water. We're gonna let our sausages just sit in there for about a half an hour, just let everything contract, just stop cooking and just be done. At this point, they are ready to eat, but we're gonna do that, then we're gonna cook one up and see how we did. Once they have cooled off, guys, they're pretty much ready to do whatever you want with them. They are going to be fully cured, and they're fully cooked, so they can pretty much take sitting in your fridge for a decent amount of time. You can freeze them for a while, and then just reheat them as needed, which is what I'm going to do. But at this point, I just want to get into its ice bath, and then we'll come back, I'll cook one up, and show you just how we did. All right, guys, before we get to trying these out, credit where credit is due. This is a book that you need to buy. It's called Home Production of Quality Meats and Sausages by Stanley and Adam Mariansky. I probably mispronounced that, but honestly, if it's still in print, buy this on Amazon. I'll have a link down below. It has really helped me with my sausage making, my fermentation, all that stuff. It's a great book. This is a recipe from there, and a bunch of my recipes, I started in that, and then just kind of made them my own, but it's a great place to start. With that out of the way, guys, today has been a sausage making day. I've done about 15 pounds of sausages. These are about 5 pounds, but I also did some bratwurst, some kielbasa, just to get stuff ready for the summer. So I have a bunch of sausage in the freezer, ready for some cooks. Now, when you are cooking them up, you can absolutely take the wrapper off. It's not necessary. At this point in time, these are all fully cooked. They've been smoked. They're ready to go. So you can really do whatever you want. You could probably eat them cold if you really want to, but that's psychotic. So let me show you what we're working with here. You can see right in there, there's a nice chunk of pork belly next to our sausage, which means that every single bite is going to have that fatty, delicious bacony taste and a really good just sausage. But most importantly, the proof is in the pudding, and I'm starving, guys. It's been a long day of sausage making. So it's time to give it the old-fashioned chomp. Guys, the sausage bite on this is so good. It really just is a fantastic breakfast sausage. It has that bacony flavor with so much of the pork belly in there. If you're interested in trying a new style of breakfast sausage, I highly recommend this one. Now, as always, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know down below what your favorite breakfast sausage is. And as always, guys, cook something absolutely fantastic, and I'll catch you on the next UFOBBQ. Bye-bye.